Hey,
Welcome back. It's so good to see you again.
thank you so much for having me. It's awesome to be here on a first Friday.
Yeah, and I promise you, you're always just in the most fabulous getup.
Well, you know,
She said, I don't come to disappoint on these
absolutely
Fridays.
not.
I know
Absolutely
you
not.
don't. Well, recently, we lost Elijah L. Lewis,
Yeah.
my brother, in the community, and it is something that we are realizing, like, people deal with grief in a bunch of different ways. We deal
Yeah.
with loss in different ways, but there, in my mind, I'm like, how would Elijah want me to push forward?
Yeah.
And we were doing so much work together in community that I think immediately I can't stop doing the work.
Yeah.
And so I'm so grateful that you could come on today. What are some of the things that folks can be doing, particularly when they have to deal with loss like this, but still have so much to do?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that we really have to remember is that we all are going to deal with loss. Loss is a part of life. It's going to happen. But one of the things that's really challenging about it is we don't really learn how to deal with grief and loss. We don't have like a formula. There are rules to some of everything, but when it comes to grief and loss and trauma, there are no rules to it. There's not a book. There's no like handbook that says, we go through this and then it's done, right? Grief is one of those things that it's not this linear healing. There are ebbs, there's flows, there are all of these things that happen on a daily basis that can take us from like feeling okay to I don't know what happened. This usually isn't a trigger, but something happened and now I burst into tears and I am sad all over again, right? And so we have to give ourselves some real grace when it comes to how we deal with grief because it's not linear. It's one of those things that, a taste, a smell, a place, right? Something, an object can really trigger us to be back in a place of, I was really good today and now I'm sad. And first part of really understanding that is knowing that this is going to happen, right? Understanding that it is going to happen. You're going to have things that come your way that are going to set you back. But the key is that you can't stay in the setback, right? You can't sit in the setback. You've got to acknowledge what's happening. I know what I'm feeling. I know why I'm feeling it. And I know that I still have to keep going, right?
Yeah.
Because the thing for us is that we still have another day. Our loved one that's gone, that was the end for them. They had completed their mission, right? We're still here and we still have a mission and a purpose that we have to keep moving forward toward. So we have to keep ourselves in a place of understanding that the mission has to keep moving with this person in mind as we keep going, right? We never forget about them. We hold them with us, but we have to remember to keep moving. And it can be a real challenge, right?
Well, I mean, part of what you're saying and what I'm hearing you say is if we are preparing ourselves for those ebbs and flows, we actually gear ourselves up to be able to move forward.
Yes.
Recently, folks have been telling me because they know that I get to work. That's just kind of my modus operandi, right?
Yeah.
Like I just get to work. But to be able to recognize within myself when I need to take that break and when I
Huge.
need to take that seat back,
Yeah.
maybe allow others to kind of, move things forward. I think that's also key to this, right?
Absolutely. That's huge because one of the things we do when we're experiencing grief is we just like dig in and just start doing a bunch of busy work. We just start doing things. We're moving around and you'll see it in everyone that you'll watch them. And at the beginning of when this bad thing happens, when we lose someone, you just see this person zipping around and they're just moving and they're doing things and they're really just trying to get through the next moment. And that's their way. That's how they're doing it. So we do have to be so mindful of our own selves, like really digging into emotional intelligence. How am I feeling? What's coming up for me? Spending some time doing some mindfulness exercises so that we can really be in a place of being in connection with who we are and what's happening so we don't burn ourselves out or get to the place where what we've done is we put the grief on the back burner and when it gets ready to show up because we haven't dealt with it, it'll be at the most inopportune time. You're in a meeting at work, in the middle of the meeting, someone says one thing that just triggers you and you lose it, right? And that's part of that, is not allowing yourself to deal with the grief and being in this place of busyness so that you don't have to think about it, so you can just get through the moment, right? And that goes back to just not knowing how to deal with grief. You know, we need to be in a place where we acknowledge what's happening, right? We acknowledge what we're feeling. Do some work to write down what this person meant to you, okay? What they meant to you. Fun stories, not just writing I'm sad, right? Because that will keep you crying, but fun things about them, stories, things that they loved, things that remind you of them, right? Putting that grief in a place where you're looking at it, you're facing it face forward, and then you're moving through.
Well, you know, I really appreciate you talking about mindfulness practices. I know that for me, my idea of like grief is oftentimes like, okay, let me be at peace, right? Because I understand that peace, if peace is my natural response to all things, then it's my natural response to any challenge in my life, right?
Yeah.
And so we sometimes see loss as like, oh man, that's a challenge, because now I don't have that person physically with me,
Right.
knowing that they move on into another realm. But it's this idea of that constant connection that I was able to have, right, in this realm. But being mindful that peace is my nature, and that there are some things we can do right away, like smiling and laughing.
Absolutely.
That are kind of the antithesis, right? They're like the opposite of us just being like sad. So when we do that, what you're saying here in terms of like remembering the good times,
Yeah.
being able to laugh about stories and memories, that's also really positive. And
Yes.
I think we don't talk about that enough in Western society, to be able to know you don't have to just be, you know, bawling and crying.
Yeah.
Maybe those times will come up, but you can also laugh and bring joy into the moment of what you were able to have with that person.
Absolutely.
You know, recently I lost my cousin as well before Elijah, and I was like, I think I was just kind of shocked by my cousin's death. And honestly, I was like, oh my gosh, he had such an amazing smile. And at his service, you know, there were so many people that talked about his smile, because he did. And it just lit up a room. And already, like immediately as we're there in the service, I'm like, yeah, just remembering his smile,
Right.
it is making me smile. So there's this amazing interaction of energy that you gather when you're smiling, and when you can bring on that positivity, even in loss.
Absolutely. You know, the thing that we have to remember is that there's always a silver lining, and it may not seem like that in the beginning, right? In the beginning of grief, you're not really sure why this happened, how, you know, what's going on, what's the reason, especially when we're talking about someone who's young, right? Someone who we feel like had a whole lot of life left to live and was doing such great work. Like, why did this happen? And as humans, we're conditioned to figure out the why, and there really isn't a why in death. There isn't. There's no why. We don't know why it happened. We're never going to know why it happened. But what we do have to look at is looking at ourselves to say, now, what did I learn from this person? What did they teach me? What's made me better now, having known this person, having been in community with this person? And then we focus on those things, because those are the things that give us that peace, that put us in a place of being able to say, I can be okay with this because I truly took everything that I could from this person, from the experiences that I had with them, from the memories, and I hold those things dear. And we were talking some weeks back about writing our stories. We've got to help to write that person's story after they're gone. And that's one of the beautiful things about writing down like what that person meant to you and keeping it, because it helps you to heal, but it also helps the generations coming behind you to know this person that left us before they came. And we've got to be better at that, because let's look at Elijah's life and all that he did. Like, of course, there's so much of it that's on Converge Media, which is beautiful because we've been able to chronicle so many things, but not everyone has that kind of platform, right? So we have to make sure that we keep that person here, by writing down who they were to us, what they imparted in the world, what it was that they gave us that will never leave us, that we're going to pass down to our children and our children's children. And if it's that smile, if it's the idea that we can just be happy in the midst of loss, if it is laughter, whatever that thing is, we have to keep it, hold it dear, and then pass it down.
There it is. I mean, you always bring so much knowledge and wisdom.
Thank
and
you.
It's beautiful to know that when we do these things, we're setting ourselves up to continue the work in a positive, healthy way.
Absolutely.
I think you're absolutely right that, and I probably suffer from that where I'm like, I get to work,
Yeah.
because I'm like, oh God, can't take my foot off the gas. Got to keep, because, my bro was here and this is what we're doing. So that is a driving force for me, but I really appreciate you giving some insight to how you do that in a healthy way.
Absolutely.
So that it's not just the busy work and just trying to keep yourself moving so that you're not dealing with the grief. There's ways to do that and move it forward. Rasheda, as always, a pleasure. Look right there. Let them know how they connect with Rasheda Hatchett Media.
Awesome. So you can find me at RashedaHatchettMedia.com. I am also on Instagram and Facebook at Rasheda Hatchett. Connect with me. Let me know what you're up to, and I'd love to chat with you all.
Oh, right on. Phenomenal. I appreciate you, and I appreciate these segments. I can't wait to see you next month.
Oh, me neither. I'm excited.